I'm the Community Safety Officer for Collingwood, Town of the Blue Mountains. I'm in my 19th year of policing. I've lived in the community since 1996. So I really do have a passion to keep our community safe, being that it is the place I work and the place I live. So coming to do these, I want to thank Brock for assisting with this. Is really passionate to both of us to keep our community safe. We're going to talk about some of the top 6 scams that are out there. Brock will talk in detail about a romance scam, and I'm going to talk about 5 of them that are the common ones, and we're using a lot of statistics from Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre from 2017, where we get all our policing stats and that from. So we're talking about the investment scam, and when we have an investment scam, this is obviously where you're investing in something that's really not there and you're losing a lot of money for it. Average loss last year was $40,500 a person. That's a lot of money. We talk about binary options and bitcoins. If anybody has heard of any of those monetary new things, it's just an electronic means of money. It's not anything physical, it's all electronic. With that electronic means comes a lot of more fraudsters and less security for that. Thanks, Brock. And these statistics go from as current as just February, and Brock has pulled these together specifically for seniors. This is an area that's targeted a lot by fraudsters, and you'll hear us use those terms, fraudsters and scammers. Our hope is to put these people out of business. Chances are that's not going to happen, and Brock is going to give you a whole background of all that, but let's do our best as a community to make it more difficult for them. And in order to do that, this is why we do these presentations, and to assist the public. No, it doesn't want to work. Did it work? There we go. Okay, there we go. Okay. So then we've got 2 computers working here, and we'll just work with technology. So we talk about prize or lottery. So it's any false, deceptive, misleading solicitation where they're advising victims that you've won something. They want to give you something, you've won it, but you have to pay something first. So an average of $7,600. Seniors, 236 victims last year for this scam, and over $1.8 million in total. That's a lot of money. So you get a call from maybe somebody in Jamaica saying that you've won maybe the Reader's Digest or Publisher Clearinghouse, right? And you've got this check, please cash this check. They're very persuasive, and they seem to have everything there that they need to get you to do what they need you to do and deposit that money and transfer the money, and there they have it, and now you're out this money. We always talk about that if it sounds too good to be true, right? No one's just going to give you money. We work hard for our money. And it's so tempting and enticing to do that, but let's just be mindful of, we work very hard for our money, and no one wants to just give us money for doing, sending something in the mail or depositing a check. So the next one is service calls, and these things are such as duct cleaning, Microsoft Office, water heater filters, shingling of roofs, anything where there's sometimes door-to-door salesmen that might not be, or over the phone might not be from a certified company. You really have to do your research when you're investing in your homes and things like that to see that they are justified, and I know that topic came up about researching earlier, so it involves this as well when you're doing those types of things. But there was an average of $1,295 last year, just an average per person, and over 2,100 victims of senior victims of this sort of fraud and scam. That's a lot of victims in our country. And again, seniors are targeted for these, so we have to be careful of these scams. And then the stats up there says in $2.1 million, $2.14 million as of February 2018. It's a lot of money. So this one, fake call from Microsoft. Show of hands, who's had the Microsoft call at home when you have problems with your computers, right? And this has been around for a number of years, Microsoft, and it's just not going away. And with the more and more majority of people accessing computers, laptops, cell phones, tablets, things like that, it's probably not going to go away. Microsoft is not going to call you and tell you you have a virus. Okay, I've had people say, well, they call and say I have a problem with my computer. I don't even have a computer. And I say, exactly. So it's a fraud. If you have problems with your computer, take it to a certified computer company that's going to look at it, search it for viruses and things. We recommend an antivirus, good antivirus software package. I love mine because it always, when we get these emails and things like that, it always throws it in the spam folder. And I always just look at them. I never open them. Because once you click on opening them, then they have that information and it entices you to click on other links, and Brock will talk about those as well. And they're usually coming from some financial organization. They're usually coming from overseas. Some of them, and Brock's going to talk about the romance scam and things like that. So if you have a good antivirus software that will take those and put them out of your site, and you can delete them, that's highly recommended as well. So they will not call you. Microsoft will not call you and tell you you have a problem. Okay? If you're having a problem with your computer, please do also go and get it fixed. And we talk about just stopping fraud. All you have to do is hang up. I know it seems so easy as a solution, but it's very difficult to do. These fraudsters apply a lot of pressure to us. They kind of force us, and when we're feeling uncertain about what they're actually asking, we may give in to that because there's always an urgency and a need. You don't have to get nasty with them. You can just hang up. And sometimes that's very hard to do. And we just keep saying, say no, hang up. I know my spouse just always says, are you trying to sell me something? And as soon as they say yes, he hangs up. Chances are it's a fraudster. And then you sometimes get these calls in the middle of the night. It doesn't matter what time. Sometimes, as Fraud mentioned, they're from 1-800 numbers, things like that, any time of the day. And to be careful of those. So we talk about timeshares, an average loss of over $37,000, and with the scams of 32 senior victims last year, amounting over a total of $1.2 million. When we talk about money, that's a lot of money. So these are things like a lot of us, we talk about going to Florida and things like that. If you're traveling, if you have timeshares, be alert and do your research of justified places that you're renting when you go on vacation, whether you're going down to Florida and things like that. They're not all justified, and I know we've been talking about do your own research, and that's what we're asking for you. I was thankful in our own community because we go to Costa Rica, and I was getting a money order, which people don't normally do nowadays, to book a place down in Costa Rica. So I went to the post office and I said, I need a money order. I need to send it to this place in the States. And she says, are you sure it's for real? And I really appreciated it, and I thanked her. And I thanked her because of the job I do as well. And I said to her, I go around and do a lot of these presentations, so I really want to thank you for keeping our community safe and making me aware of it. It's a place I've been dealing with for years and confident that it is the right thing. But it was nice that somebody else was watching out for our community for things like that. Sometimes you get involved in timeshares where you can't even travel because of health insurance, maybe aging cost. As you age, the cost of health insurance increases, and you can't even travel to where you were hoping, and you've already bought into this timeshare. So these are things that you need to be aware of, that from a realtor's point of view, that they are real realtors, and the investments that you're making in different countries and that to travel for your retirement is important to do. This is the one I really want to talk about, is extortion, and this seems to be the number one, I think. If I say CRA scam, put up your hand who's ever heard of it. And it's been around for a number of years, and I don't think, Brock, this one's going to go away, is it? It's costing seniors almost $5,500 on average. If you've ever had that fake phone call from Canada Revenue, this is classified as extortion. They will threaten you. They will tell it's a criminal offense. They will tell you the police are going to arrest you and throw you in jail and take your house for $200 or something. Yeah. I'm sure CRA has a lot bigger fish to fry, so to speak, if they're worrying about you for $200. CRA will not phone you for that. They will send certified mail. Unfortunately, they are targeting seniors, and they are putting that pressure on you again, because who wants to be arrested? Who wants to be thrown in jail, and who wants their home taken away from them? So I have to caution you that it is a scam. And Brock will talk more again about the phone card that you can just say it's coming from 613, which we know is our Ottawa number, faking that number that it's called from CRA and things like that. CRA will not ask for Bitcoin payments. They will not ask for binary option payments. And unfortunately in Ontario, there's no licensed broker, or in Canada, I guess it is, no licensed broker for binary. The government does not regulate those trade options. It's electronic Bitcoin binary. Sometimes the Ontario Security Commission, if anyone's heard that, monitors that, but it's not until I think it's about 90 days, Brock, overseas that it takes before, if you're depositing those checks that they're threatening you to deposit that they've sent to you, it might take 90 days before it's ever cleared. And by that time, the fraudster's long gone and you're not getting your money back. We've really tried in our detachment area to keep our community safe, and we did Fraud Prevention Month, which is every March of every year. We went around to businesses that sell cards, iTunes cards, any gift cards and things like that, because this is what CRA is targeting and saying that they want you to buy. And we went around to all the cashiers and we put a stop little notice like this for the cashiers, and they have stopped some of these transactions in our community, which is wonderful. But unfortunately, these things are still happening as of the month of August. I just wrote out something here, $6,000 in total from the CRA scam. There was 3 calls where people were scammed over $6,000, and they were told to buy iTunes cards. CRA does not want to be paid by music cards. iTunes is a music card. But what they do want is the code off the back so that the fraudsters can get that code from you and access the monetary value, which they take once that card's scanned. And that's the same with all the other gift cards and things like that. Unfortunately, again, the CRA scam is not going away up until even yesterday. Somebody in our area, our policing jurisdiction in Simcoe County, was scammed $5,000 and paid Bitcoins, $5,000. They'll never see that money again. And this was just as of yesterday. So as much as we go out and talk and we ask you to share this knowledge with your friends, if you can keep sharing, because we're just a few people, if you can keep sharing that, Revenue Canada will not ask you to pay again by Bitcoins. They will not ask you to pay by iTunes cards and gift cards and things like that. If you have an issue with that phone call, hang up and call Revenue Canada directly. And I'm sure they will tell you it is a scam. And we all said we've heard about CRA scam by now. It's just one that's just not going to go away. And this is so these are just pictures of some of the things that they will ask. So they often use the Bitcoins, the reloadable pay cards, prepaid credit cards, the Visa cards, MasterCards, and things like that, because they want the code off the back to access that money. And all they need is that code, and the cash is sent somewhere maybe into South America or anywhere else in the world, making it ever difficult to trace. And Brock's going to talk about the difficulty in tracing that sort of monetary value for that. An Oshawa woman here was scammed $12,000 and sent an iTunes card to CRA. That's a lot of money, $12,000 for a small amount that you may have owed Revenue Canada. So if they're asking you to pay more money, obviously is one flag that should go up. And obviously if they're asking you to pay in a prepaid MasterCard or an iTunes cards or Bitcoins, another flag should go up.
The other thing I received in the mail was from Bank of Montreal. If I'm a Canadian taxpayer, to fill out the form. But it's not really from Bank of Montreal. I don't even have an account at Bank of Montreal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So any of those things that you're getting in the mail, in your emails and things like that, and I know Brock's going to talk a little bit more about emails and how to identify some of those, contact the bank. Contact the bank directly, whoever it is, or whatever organization is doing it, contact them directly and find out if this is real or not. And I know CRA keeps track of a lot of those things, so I don't know, Brock, if you're aware of that one, if that's come through your desk or not. So Brock's going to tell you some good news, I think is what we're going to leave you at there. Does anybody have any questions about questions maybe that's going on in our community? Yes.
You haven't mentioned fraud through the post office. I had my mail redirected to a place in Quebec, and I had never done that. But then when they redirect your mail, you don't know what's gone there.
Correct.
Until I stop receiving credit cards at my address.
Yeah, Brock was going to talk a bit about that, but we talk about junk mail and getting those junk mail flyers, pre-approved credit cards and things like that. If anybody has a shredder at home, shred those sort of things, because that has your address, it has your name and everything on it. Somebody can just take that application, forge it, mail it, and put a different address on it. And voila, you have forgery and impersonation and things like that with your can. So that's probably what has happened. So anytime you get anything, I never put anything in the garbage that has my name on it or any banking information. I always rip that off, and I have a wood stove, so I tend to use my wood stove. But if you have a shredder at home, and I know Brock was going to talk a bit about that. So I will leave you in capable hands.
Okay.
Thanks, Brock.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See you later. Okay, sorry this is a little piecemeal, but we'll try and catch up to where we should be. This is a presentation that was developed by actually a couple of RCMP officers and myself. Jennifer was with me for over 8 years. Actually, we're still doing a few together. The other officer went undercover, and I can't even mention her name. But Jennifer used to start these presentations with a joke. And it was very simple. It was a group of seniors in a small town that was always going to Timmy's for coffee for about a 3-hour coffee break every morning. And this one woman was always complaining. And a couple of guys got just so tired of listening to her complaints that they decided to do something about it. Because her complaint was that she wasn't getting enough action in the bedroom. And so they went online and found a male escort agency, and they called the guy up. It sounded like a good one. It was called Super Sex. Yeah. So anyway, Super Sex. Guy showed up at her door one night and knocked on the door and said, and she said, "Who is it?" And he said, "Super Sex." And pause, and she said, "Who?" "Super Sex." And she said, "I'll take the soup, please." Anyway, I'll refer to Jennifer a few times throughout the presentation. What I'm going to try and cover now is a little background as to who we are and what we do. The top scams for targeting seniors, Marcie has covered 5 of them. I'm going to do the other one. A few recent scams that we're really concerned about, and a few computer safety tips. First of all, who we are and what we do. We used to have this lovely name. We were called Phone Busters. We were started 25 years ago. And that was good because it was, most of the scams were by phone in those days. But the police brass decided it sounded too much like Ghostbusters. And so they changed it to this great big long name. And unfortunately, if you Google CAFC, you'll come up with the Canadian Association of Fire Chiefs, because they've been around for 100 years and they've got all the top places. So remember our old name. We're an unusual organization. First of all, we're located in North Bay, and we're a joint operation of 3 police forces, the RCMP, the OPP, and the Competition Bureau. So everybody that works for us are really employees of one of those 3 groups. However, we also have a lot of volunteers. So they operate out of North Bay with a staff of about 25 and about 35 senior volunteers. Everybody knows what the RCMP and the OPP do and what they stand for. Not everybody knows, we find, what the Competition Bureau is all about. And that's because they don't target you and I, they target big business. So this is just one example of something that they have straightened out earlier this year. A very substantial fine to Volkswagen. Now, as I say, we were started by an OPP officer although he's been retired from the OPP for many years, he's still heavily involved. And not only were we the first of its kind in the world, we were the only one for about 13 years. And now there are about 3 others that I know of anyway, and Barry was very instrumental in helping those get started. Just to show you that we're all seniors, with the exception of the blonde in the middle, who's kind of our den mother. And there are a number of us that have been there for the whole 21 years that the seniors group has been involved. Now, what do? Basically, we collect data from victims and from police agencies around Canada, all over Canada. And we try and trace some of that money or pass it on to people who can trace it. And to give you one example, on the romance scam a year ago, we passed on information that allowed the police to arrest 10 men. They were Nigerians, but they were working out of South Africa because the climate's a lot better in South Africa than Nigeria, and also because the phone service is much better. One of them pled guilty right away. 3 of them have since been convicted and sentenced to a total of 235 years, which is pretty substantial. The other 6 are still in the court process. Now, the top 6 scams, you've already heard 5 of them, but I'm going to talk about the biggest one because it is quite major compared to the others. And these are scams just targeting seniors and based on actual dollar loss. And the biggest one is the romance scam. And in fact, it's bigger dollar-wise than the next 4 combined. So it is huge. And the other scary thing about that statistic is that the RCMP estimate we only hear from about 1% of the victims. People are so embarrassed about this scam, and for good reason. But we often hear about them later. I've had a number of people come up and tell me about it. It happened to their son 10 years ago. In fact, a woman in Midland gave me the word for word what it was all about. Yes, sir.
Can you speak up a little louder, please, or go with the mic, one or the other?
Okay, my mic's, that remote mic's not working?
One of them isn't working.
I'll use this one then, sorry. Okay. Anyway, most of these were targeted originally from Russia. And there were these busty young blondes that were looking for old guys like me. And if we answered them on a dating site, within a couple of weeks they would be in love and want to come over and carry you off into the sunset or whatever. But they need $1,000 to get a passport. And if you sent them $1,000, a couple of days later they would have the passport. Surprisingly, because it can take 6 to 9 months in Russia to get a passport. Should have been one clue. But not many people are aware of that. So 2 days later they'd call and they had the passport, but they need money for a plane ticket, another $1,000. And if you sent that, probably 2 days later, panic phone call, Mummy was driving her to the airport, was in a car accident, now Mummy's in the hospital, and she needs money to help Mummy. By the way, I missed the plane, so I need another $1,000. And usually that's as far as it went, although I did have one lady in Midland who came up to me after a presentation and say, word for word, that's exactly what happened to her son. But it was her $2,500 that was down the drain. Now, I never thought we'd be using Dr. Phil as our source of information, but Dr. Phil has actually done about 10 one-hour shows on this scam. I think he calls it catfishing. And you can actually watch them online, the old shows, and I have watched 3. This particular woman made the mistake of changing her marital status to widow on Facebook and was immediately besieged by a number of possible suitors. She was dealing with somebody who claimed he was an American soldier working in a war zone and therefore couldn't talk on the phone. But he was sending her love notes like this every day, sometimes 2 or 3 a day, and flowers on her birthday and things like this. and it was quite amazing. She ended up sending him $265,000, which was her total. She cashed in all her pension and benefits and everything else. Mortgaged her house, I think, in one case. Another one that I watched on Dr. Phil was actually sending $40,000 every month, because that was all she could take out of her, I don't know if it was a pension fund or an investment fund. The maximum she could take out was $40,000 a month. Not only that, but she was wrapping it in a cornflake box and sending it by regular mail. And it's really scary how this works. They weren't dealing with American soldiers. They were dealing with these young Nigerians who were working in Malaysia, again because of the temperature and the internet service. And all they were doing is cutting and pasting love notes and little love symbols from birthday cards or whatever. And this group was making an average of $11 a minute each on that scam. And if one of the guys, say the guy in the striped shirt, went away on holidays, somebody else just took over. And the people wouldn't realize it was somebody else because they'd never heard the voice, because he was in a war zone. Scotland Yard discovered that there were 104 different guys, we'll assume, using the same American photo of a model. And Jennifer got mad at me because I always showed the busty blonde, but I didn't show the male, so there he is. He had no idea his photos were being stolen and used. And he doesn't do anything for me, but I don't know. Anyway, Jennifer also brought out a case in the States where this mother and daughter combination were also pretending to be male American soldiers working in a war zone. And because nobody ever heard their voice, nobody realized they were female. And they were caught and sentenced to the penitentiary. When they got to the penitentiary, they found out that the female inmates had a 1 hour of computer time every day. And so they trained them how to run the same scam from the jail. And eventually they were caught, and the money was being laundered through Nigeria. A little closer to home, we had a woman in Halton, which is Oakville area, who lost $1.2 million just this year. And that's not the largest one I'm aware of. The largest was $1.4 million from a woman in Vancouver who is still spending a lot of money trying to chase it down. The worst case, and this is also another one from Jennifer, was the scam victim who was allegedly trying to hire somebody to kill her mother so she could get her inheritance to send to a scammer. And, you know, these are things you can't make up. I've never come so close to banging my head against the wall as when I've dealt with one of these frauds. Okay, these are the ones that Marcie covered. To about here. Sometimes when you get these calls, these fake calls, it's a fake number. With the tax thing, it's usually an Ottawa number, and Ottawa isn't going to call you about your taxes. It'll be, what, Sudbury? Yeah. So you know it's fake. But some of them, other scams, they're using your number. And that's simply because they're too lazy to type in a fake number. So they just cut and paste your number after they've dialed it. And that it shows up as if you're calling yourself. So watch for that. If you see that happen, you just pick up the receiver and put it down. Yes?
Actually happened to us. They called me on my cell phone and the cell phone number showed. And they told me they are Ontario Public Police and that my husband is in jail and I have to pay $2,500 to bring him out.
Yeah.
My husband was sitting next to me.
Oh, good.
So I got little upset and told them off and hung up.
Yeah, because they're very forceful on these scams. I was out in Victoria, BC, where there's a lot of seniors, and the Victoria police told me about 1 week where they had 2 older women show up at the police station, one with their suitcase packed and everything, because her first call had been from CRA, supposedly. The second call supposedly was from the RCMP, booking a time to come and arrest her. The police don't call you ahead of time to book a time to come and arrest you, believe me, anywhere. And besides that, the RCMP don't handle that at West, although they handle just about everything else. And they're using a spoofing card to fake the number they're calling from. Canada is about the only major country that allows spoofing cards. So if you get a number on your cell phone, on your phone that says it's your own number calling, just pick it up and hang up right away. Or if it's a number like this, 777 or 999 all the way across, you know it's somebody trying to hide their number or fake their number, and you don't want to talk to them. There's nothing much you can do about it except pick it up and hang up again. But be very aware that these numbers can be faked in Canada. There's also a similar scam called the One Ring scam, and especially targeting cell phones and early in the morning before you're up. And so you wake up and you find your cell phone, you've missed a call. And apparently when people are asleep, a lot of people just dial that number and call it back. And apparently there's a group in Western Africa that has set this up, and you're going to get charged about $100 for a long distance call if you call back, because they'll keep you on the line for as long as they can. So it's also used by people that call pretending to be your credit card company. You know, they'll say, this is your credit card company calling. We want to give you a better rate of interest or a 0 rate of interest. You all had that one? Yeah. Last few weeks it's been a 0% rate of interest. And that's another fake call. Just, if you think you're missing something, just hang up, and if you think you're missing something, turn your credit card over and call the number on the back, because that's not the way the Canadian credit card companies work. All kinds of other scams, mass marketing fraud. Jennifer and the other officer worked on a charity scam for 6 years, and it was finally thrown out of court. But the people had called 67,000 people that had called, that had donated money. They were making calls like maybe a couple of weeks ago. They would have used this is the Red Cross. We're collecting money for the victims of the hurricanes up in the Ottawa Valley area. And we know you contributed before. We're just going to make it easier and just take your credit card this time. And the trouble with that is people don't realize it's a scam. And the reason is they don't receive a receipt, but you're not expecting the receipt until next March. And by that time you've forgotten all about it. So anyway, the 2 officers took all the data up to North Bay and ran it through our computers. Not one of those 67,000 people had reported it as a scam. Now, a few of them did afterwards when the police started phoning a few of the victims just to have some records for court. But that gives you an idea how widespread it is. And we also want to talk about identity theft, which is sometimes called identity fraud. And this occurs when somebody gets enough information about you to open a bank account or get a credit card in your name. And this is some of the information they're looking for. Marcie mentioned, don't throw anything in the garbage with your name and address on it. And that's probably one of the best tips. Because people do go through dumpster diving in various forms, probably more so in apartment buildings or condos or even seniors residences where all the mailboxes are in the lobby or foyer and there's a big garbage can there. All the junk mail goes in the garbage can. Trouble is that junk mail often includes a pre-approved credit card application from Citibank or one of those American banks. And all they have to do is get that and cross off your address and put in theirs, scribble a signature that nobody can read, mail it in, and bang, they've got a credit card in your name. Now the good news is you won't be held responsible for it, but the bad news is it can take you years to get your credit rating back. So be careful, as Marcie mentioned, destroy anything either by just ripping it off or shredding it, putting it in the wet garbage or whatever, anything that has your name and address on it from a company. But right now the biggest problem is from computer hacking. And this was the only funny thing I could find about computer hacking. This is a series of 4 road signs up near Ottawa, I think it was Stittsville. And somebody had been able to hack into the computer that controlled those road signs. You've all seen those road signs. And the first one was construction ahead, the second one was a comment from a female, the third from a male, and this was the 4th one. Probably just some kid that hacked into it to show that he could do something like that. Very simple. But it shows you how easy it is to hack. And being a former teacher, I can tell that lady has heard that excuse before. But some of them are very serious. And another OPP officer I worked with in London brought this one to our attention, that McDonald's had their files hacked, and there were 95,000 job applications that were on file, and all that information was stolen. Now, if you think of a job app, there's all kinds of good information on it. Your birth date, your social insurance number, even your mother's maiden name, which some Canadian banks still use as your password. So that's a more serious type of thing, and that kind of information would be sold on the internet, on the dark web. And of course, we all know about the big one in the U.S. last September, a year ago September, when Equifax was hacked. And one of the handouts that we've given to your people to hand out has a whole sheet of what to do if you have an American bank account or an American credit card, because you should be aware of that, because there were, I forget how many millions of people that were hacked that way. If you look at the page, it has a little round circular crest at the top of it. That's how to identify it. So the other thing we're concerned about is phishing, and phishing is phishing for information. The PH came in when it was mostly done by phone, but now it's done mostly by emails, fake emails. And unfortunately, there are 6.4 billion of these sent out every day. Now, a lot of them are caught by the better mail companies like Google and so on, but there's still a lot of them that go on. And they get their information very often from one of the social agencies, like Facebook. Here's what a fake one might look like. Just as I stole your logo on my first slide, it's very easy to go in on the web and steal a bank logo or anything like that. And so this looks like it came from the TD Canada Trust Bank. Whoops, sorry. And it looks very, very authentic. And even the director of the FBI fell for one of these about 6 or 7 years ago. He didn't tell anybody about it for 5 years, and then he was gone pretty quickly, but I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not. But this looks like their website did at the time, except there's a DA missing from Canada Trust. So somebody was able to set up a fake website that if you click on it, it's going to look like Canada Trust, and they're going to ask you for all your security information. And that was a pretty good one, because that was the only mistake in the in the whole thing. Very often when you get these, the spelling is terrible, the grammar, you know, even the verbiage is terrible. Here's another one that looks like it's from Canada Revenue Agency. I think Canada Revenue Agency knows how to spell Dear Taxpayer. Taxpayer should be one word. And you can tell a little bit from the content of that that it's something suspicious. If they're going to send you money, they'll mail you money. They'll mail you a check. They've got your name and address. And then the other thing we didn't notice for years was it was sent out on a Sunday afternoon in July. And we checked with Canada Revenue Agency, and no, there wasn't anybody working on Sunday afternoon. Now, more recently, just the end of August, Air Canada all their accounts were hacked. 1.7 million people who had a mobile app on their mobile phone were hacked, and I'm not sure that they have warned everybody about that yet. But that's a very serious one if you have one. And this is a brand new scam this past summer. And it was mainly sent to males, but the email said, we have not only your username and password, but we also have a list of all your mailing list. And here's your password. And very often people never change their passwords. And it was a hacking that had taken place many years ago. The passwords are still for sale. They're probably getting pretty cheap now. But people panicked because what they wanted you to do was send anywhere from $2,500 in bitcoins up to $8,500 in bitcoins. And the threat was they had caught you on a porn site. And not only that, but they had turned on the camera that was on your laptop, like a little black thing on mine, and taken pictures of what you were doing while you were watching porn. And if you didn't pay this ransomware, they were going to send it to everybody on your mailing list. And I guess a lot of people were panicked about that because the first major tip we got on it wasn't from people who were victims, but from the Canadian Bankers Association, who had realized that there were so many people withdrawing money, mainly older men, buying money to buy bitcoins. And so it was a pretty serious, and probably still is. Although I did run into a few women in audiences like this that had received it as well. One of them was named Pat, so I guess that's not unexpected. So that's a type of ransomware where they're holding something over your head. The other type of ransomware we've experienced in this area, both in Midland and Wasaga Beach. And this is a little different kind of ransomware. They get on your computer and change all your files using military-grade encryption. So the files are still there on your computer, you just can't read them or do anything with them. They're totally encrypted. And they want money to unencrypt your files or sell you a key to decrypt them. I don't know which is correct. And so one of the two towns I mentioned paid $35,000 to get their files back, but their total cost was $250,000. So that's the type of thing that's going on, but mainly targeting business. But you should be aware of it because it might even affect your taxes. So just to scare you a little more, up till June of this year, there were 4.5 billion records compromised that we know of. And the other thing we wanted to emphasize is how companies turn your data into money. Probably everybody here has an email account that they don't pay anything for, or they're on Facebook, or something like that, or both, or many more. And all these services are free. They're free because they're selling your information. Because these companies are making billions of dollars, and you're not paying them anything. But they are selling your information, and that's why they're so rich. And so we want to give you a few helpful tips about what to do when you're on the computer. Marcie did mention checking your spam folder. If you have an email account, you have a spam or a junk mail folder. And you should take a look at that, because you'll find stuff like this that obviously some bank in Nigeria, it's obviously a scam. They want to give you 10.5 million. You know that's a fake. But I looked at my junk mail folder one day and printed it out. And some of these I know, but for example, I took a look at Eva England. I don't know an Eva England. I don't know anything about that website. So I held my cursor over top of Eva England's name. I don't click on it, I just put the cursor over top of it. And down below will pop this bottom rectangle. And it shows that it's not from Eva England, it's really from Chuck Reynolds. And that's his email address or website. And I don't know a Chuck Reynolds either. Now, since then, I've had 12 more emails from Eva England. All of them really from a different fake person. So you don't want to open any of those. You just want to delete them before you open them. And so just be very wary of any suspicious links like this. Any pop-up ads that just suddenly appear on your computer like that. And just don't click on them. If there's any doubt at all, don't click on them, because once you do, you're going to get a virus. And the virus can take complete control of your computer, and it can encrypt all your folders, all your files, or they can just wipe them all out, or they'll hold them for ransomware. And unfortunately, you don't have an oops key. Anybody have an oops key? No. An oops key. You don't have an oops key to save yourself on. If that happens to you and your computer appears to be locked up, if it's a desktop one, unplug it immediately. If it's a laptop one, flip it over and pull the battery out. And you've probably never done that, so maybe you should take a look when you get home and see how to do that. Although there are some that you can't even take the battery out of. It's sort of built right in. So our take-home message is simply this: we're all targets. Who to contact? The local police, who happen in this case to be the OPP. They'll probably refer you to us. With our handouts that we've given to you, there is a fridge magnet with our toll-free number on. If you're not a victim, we don't really need to hear from you. There's nothing we can do. If you are a victim, we would love to hear from you. Our phones are swamped, and I suggest if you do want to get through to us, call first thing in the morning, 9 o'clock, because we get swamped very quickly. And you should notify your bank or credit card or whoever. We also do a second presentation on passwords and beyond, or it's on computer security. And we have time for a few questions. If I haven't scared the heck out of everybody. Yes?
Yeah, Brock, I have a question. So that recent story you were talking about, the municipality, I think it was Muskoka Beach, that got scammed for $35,000, and they had to pay it because someone went in and hacked their system, encrypted everything, and they were sort of locked out of business.
Yeah.
Are you telling me that the OPP can't go in, or the RCMP can't go in and sort of rectify that? They knew they were being scammed, but they paid the money anyway. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like, why would they have paid the ransom?
Because they need to send out your tax bill. And there's nothing the RCMP or the OPP or anybody else can do to decrypt or unencrypt, I'm not sure what the right word is, those files. They want the payment made by bitcoins, which can't be traced, and it's just impossible. Now, many police forces, especially in the US, will tell you not to pay it. But you have to realize you need those files. Just think of any business. If you suddenly didn't have all your files, somebody carted your computer off and you had no backups. Now, the alternative, of course, is to have good backups. And I guess in both cases they did not have good backups. So that's part of what we cover in the second program, is how to back up your files and make sure they're offline as well. Oh, it's huge. There have been big cities in the States, there have been police departments in the States that have been hacked and lost all their files. You're talking about military grade encryption. There's just no way anybody can help you get out of it. And it's your computer, and you can't trace it. Yes, sir.
What did the computer owner do wrong for that ransomware accident to happen?
They opened a file that they shouldn't have.
Some kind of obscure file.
Yeah. Very often, if you get a letter or an email and it's from somebody you don't know, that's why you should be very, very careful. We grew up in an age where we were taught to be trusting, and we're just far too trusting. So if you get an email and you're not sure who it's from, don't open it. And
Now you mentioned something that you moved your cursor onto that person,
Yeah.
which you didn't recognize, and didn't click by moving the cursor.
by moving the cursor, the name, the details of that email will pop up on the bottom of your screen. Just holding the cursor on top of it for a minute or 30 seconds.
And you know it's totally not anything which concerns you, so you ignore it.
You delete it.
Delete it.
Delete it, yes, right away. Pretty scary one. Somebody else had a question. Yes?
How do you get rid of pop-ups coming all the time? Is it best just to take it to a reputable?
I would, and I've got all kinds of grandsons that know how to do these things, and that's my way out, and actually a couple of granddaughters too. That's basic. There are ways to block things like that. You may end up blocking something you don't want to block, but best to get rid of them, as far as I'm concerned. Yes?
The answer to that woman's question is ad block, and you can find that online and download. Ad block is a software, and put it on your machine. I have it on all my machines for ad block. The other thing to this gentleman's question, if you watch the email address where things are coming from, if it says Canada Revenue Agency, and you look at the actual email it's coming from, it will not look anything like where it's coming from, because they have to send it from an email address. So when the email is inconsistent with the message, then that is one message. In the case of Wasaga Beach, the message actually came from what looked like a provincial government department. So Wasaga Beach, as a town, gets emails from, call it municipal affairs, from the provincial government all the time. But the skill is looking at the email address, because that email address would not be consistent with the provincial government public service email address.
Right. Right. Yes, sir.
Not that I have to get any, but if you have to pay a scammer with bitcoins, where do you get bitcoins?
I'm not sure where you get them in Collingwood, but No, not the bank. Usually a convenience store. I like to tell the story about somebody in Ottawa that got the phone call from supposedly Canada Revenue Agency, went through and pretended to go along with them. They told him what convenience store to go to buy bitcoins. He took his lawn chair, went up to the store, stood in front of, or sat himself in front of the Bitcoin machine and stopped a half a dozen people. They even brought the Sudbury TV down to capture it. But there are, I don't know, any in Collingwood, and Marcie probably would know, do you know?
Bitcoin can be bought online. There is actual sites where you find the Bitcoin. You've got to remember, there's 1,600 different cryptocurrencies that are out there.
Yeah.
So it's like 10 times the number of countries that are in the world.
Yeah.
There is the number of Bitcoins that are there.
Yeah.
So therefore, finding the number of sites that you can actually find Bitcoins at are numerous.
Yeah.
The easy answer is online. And how do you get it from Canadian dollars to Bitcoin? You use a credit card of some sort and buy the Bitcoins with it. And that's fundamentally the transaction. It'd be no different than buying a book with a credit card. Instead, you're buying a Bitcoin with a credit card, and it's put into an account of which you're giving them the encryption code to actually download that. And when they get the encryption code of the actual Bitcoin, then they have now possession of that coin, and it's untraceable. It's in what they refer to as a ledger, which is referred to as blockchain.
Yeah. It's basically, if you just think of it as an underground currency, and stay away from it. Yes?
I'm finding I'm also getting text message scams too. I'm finding I'm also getting text message scams. I got one this morning. And it's saying I'm getting money returned to me.
Okay. Can I read this? You have one pending email money return from your wireless carrier. Anytime Bell Canada wants to give you money back, I'd be very suspicious. Sorry? Yeah. It's suspicious, eh? Usually you can tell the grammar's terrible or the spelling or both, or it's just suspicious. Who would be sending you money by an email? You know, it's not somebody you recognize. You just delete it right away. It's a danger in opening because a message like that as an email might contain a virus that takes over your computer and gives you all the other problems. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much. I'll turn it back.
Thank you, Godfrey. So thank you, everybody, for attending today. We do have packages at the back of the room for you to take some of this valuable information with you. I hope this made you a little bit more aware of what's going on out there and maybe even scares you a little bit. Yes, please. Sure, yeah.
Hi, everyone. I took early retirement from TD Canada Trust, and I worked very closely to the fraud department. And I also worked in the account recovery fraud. One of the biggest, one of the ones before I retired was when you order something on TV and you pay with credit card. This poor woman bought a vacuum and used her credit card, but she never received a vacuum. But she was not able to pay for the charge on her credit card month over month. She was on a retiree and on fixed income, and her account ended up in account recovery for collections, and she could not afford to pay it, and it kept a reoccurring charge, and the commercial disappeared. So there was no way to trace it. So I transferred her call to the fraud department to have her Visa card just paid off, like closed, and then she wouldn't have to pay any fees or any the balance. So just be careful with who you give your credit card to and what you're purchasing with. And I could write a book on the things I saw in 28 years. So just be careful. Don't talk to anyone that you don't know, and don't give out your information, and just be private. Don't give out your PIN number to anyone. So we had a lot of that too. Well, oh, my boyfriend, oh, I just gave my PIN. And don't share any PIN information, and always cover your hand when you're using the PIN pad. And I saw up there talk about double swiping.
Yes.
When you're using the machine, and that's very popular in gas station, double swiping. So when you're at a gas station paying for gas or any convenience store, the person will take your card and they'll swipe it without you noticing, and then they'll hand it back to you and ask you to swipe it again. So the first swipe is gathering your information, and then the second swipe was your PIN number. And sometimes they have a pinhole camera above you that will also take pictures or film you of your PIN number.
So if you go into the
Gas station,
not at that.
right.
That in a sense happens to us, and I always check every item in our Visa statement when I do the deposit, and so we can go this young fellow, we got $18,000.
The other thing that we dealt with was they were from Russia, and what they did is they capped off, the PIN pad in the green machine. What they did is they covered it with a scan, and every time a customer would use the machine, it was recording all of the information. And there was a standalone green machine in Scarborough at Markham and Lawrence, and it was a standalone, and you literally could sit in the parking lot and watch the cars go around. And what they had done was they added the computer, they threw it in the garbage can to hide it, and it was just stealing all the information of all these customers that were using that machine. So just be wary. If you're not sure about answering a phone call, just hang up. Just hang up and don't answer. I tell my mom that all the time. Just don't answer. If you don't know it, don't answer. She's 82, and she's had some calls too like that. Sorry.
Okay.
I just wanted to share.
Yeah. The problem is much more difficult in the U.S. because they're still using the old mag stripe cards. You go into Walmart and you can't tap your card. They're the old style machines, and the information that's on the mag stripe is more easily stolen than the information that's on the chip technology that is on all the Canadian bank cards. It's much more of a problem in the States. So basically, you don't give the waitress your card to take up to the cashier. They bring the machine to you now, or you go up to the cashier on your way out and pay it that way. Yes. The tap system is very good. People are scared of it, but it has a maximum usually of $100, although you can lower the maximum if you want. And if you ever have any complaint, they just wipe it out without questioning you at all. But again, it's because the chip technology is more secure. Yes. Okay, you can cancel it with some banks. I'm not sure if they'll all do that. Thank you, Joe. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Another question.
Another question back here? Sorry, another question? Yes.
At the gas stations where you have a points card or whatever.
Gas stations with points cards?
Yes, you can swipe the back and you have to put your charge card in another machine. Are they gathering any information about that?
Are they getting information from the points cards that you use at some gas stations?
No, I don't think so. I've not heard of that as being a problem.
Any other further questions? Yes, ma'am. Never to swipe your credit card, only to put your PIN in.
Sometimes you don't have any choice. The cards in Walmart, the machines in Walmart will only let you swipe. You can't use the chip technology. Yeah. It is worse, yeah. Okay. I'll be around if anybody has any other questions.
So Brock will be around for questions. Meredith is in the back if anyone has any questions about Monaco, and she has a gift for everybody that's here. I would like to thank everybody for showing up. One final thing I wanted to mention, part of Pivotal ASA, one of the things that we're doing, launching in January, is we're launching something, an all-inclusive site for seniors called Senior Care Access. The beauty of the Senior Care Access is that it takes all of the suppliers that supply anything for seniors. I'm going to use accommodation and homes and long care facilities, short care facilities, stuff like that. That will all be on one website, so that you have a family member that's being released from a hospital and you have to find a facility. The doctor said, find a facility. It's up to you to really call around and find out what's going on. I think there's a couple of agencies that will help you as well, but the Senior Care Access through Senioropolis and Pivotal is something that's in beta right now, and it will be launched in January. And I'm proud to say that Pivotal, a group that I'm involved in, is going to be one of the leaders in that website. So that's exciting news that we'll have out in our newsletter for January. We launched January 2019. Everyone will receive a package when they leave. It's got some information on the Pivotal ASA program, as well as a book on scams and frauds, one of our Engel Volkers GG magazines, and a book that was written by, I have it here, a book that was written by, yes, here it is, Dr. Moynes, one of our future speakers. It's called The 4 Phases of Retirement. Looks like this. I've endorsed it on the back. I think it's one of the best reads, short reads that I've ever had on retirement. And to close up, I've got 2 books to raffle off to everybody that's registered. Maybe Brock, you could help me pull a couple names here. One is called The Art of Abundance, and one is called The Art of Encouragement. So we'll do The Art of Encouragement first. Who's the lucky person here? Ian McGregor. Art of Encouragement. Is Ian here? Oh, it's left. Try again. Karen Zenon. Okay. Art of Encouragement. Reading. One more. Art of Abundance. And the winner is Lori Prest. Lori, are you here? No, I think she had to leave with her mother. Okay. How about Helen Ellesmere? Yes, Helen. Okay, so thank you very much. There'll be coffee at the back still. Feel free to hang around and talk to any of